Are you interested in getting some good ideas on how to troubleshoot your long arm machine? Stick around, we've got some great tips today. Welcome to Handi Quilter Watch and Learn. I'm Kim Sandberg, and today I have a special guest.
I'm Kaye Collins.
So Kaye, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live about 45 minutes south of Handi Quilter in Lehi, Utah, and my business name is OK Quilting.
Which I love. Love, love, love.
So I have been a quilter, made my very first quilt in 1989.
Awesome.
But you know, now I got crazy about quilting in 2014 when my son joined the Marines, and it was like I was just sewing and sewing and sewing, and I was keeping 3 long armors busy.
Wow.
And I was like, maybe I should learn how to do this.
Maybe.
And here I am, and so I love long arming it. There's just so many creative possibilities.
There really are, there really are. I know, and we are so lucky to have you be one of our national educators.
Oh, I'm so glad. I love traveling the country and teaching beginners. I love it when, you know, all of a sudden their eyes light up and they're like, oh, I get it now. That is so much fun.
Moment, right? The aha moment. It is fantastic. Yeah. No, we love having you, and you may find Kaye at a local quilt shop. Like she just mentioned, she does teach all over the U.S. and other places. Maybe even, who knows, soon other places. But yeah, you have a lot of fun doing it, and I know that through all of your travels and interacting with different students, you've had a lot of opportunities to listen to people's, okay, this is what my problem is, and their question always is for an educator, how do I fix this? So you came up with this awesome presentation that you did for us recently for a training for our retailers, and I was like, okay, we got to do a video with this. So that's why you're here today. So can you tell us a little bit about what you've got here, and let's go ahead and jump into it.
So I made this because what I hear, people get very frustrated, and what I hear all the time is, oh, my pro stitcher just did thus and so. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, pro stitcher is it's not the end all be all of troublemakers, okay? It only does what we tell it to. So usually it's really us that we've made some mistake that we might not even understand, but those things happen. And so there really are machine issues and pro stitcher issues. So I've separated this that way because I think that people don't understand that. If they have a pro stitcher on their machine, then it's responsible for everything.
It is. Pro stitcher's the big bad ugly wolf, where the simple truth is sometimes it's just a tension issue, or maybe your bobbin isn't quite correct or something. So yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm excited to see what you've got here, because I know I've got to see you do this presentation once before, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that. Oh, wow, this is really great. So,
well, great.
Let's roll through it.
So really my goal here is to make sure that people understand what we ask for maintenance. There are some issues that can happen with how we load and advance our quilts, tension, and then, of course, pro stitcher, which, just by the way, is my favorite thing.
Oh, so. Me too. I know, we're like pro stitcher sisters, aren't we? We're like, if we can do it with a pro stitcher, we're going to make it happen with a pro stitcher. Can we long arm? Absolutely. Yes. Can we free motion quilt? Absolutely. But why? I know. Have a pro stitcher.
Well, and then once you get pro stitcher designer, but that's a different story for a different day.
A whole different day. So,
well, the first thing is that, you know, I learned how to quilt on a different machine, and I was very frustrated that the oil was dripping on my quilt.
Yes.
And so this is one of my favorite things about Handi Quilter, is that really the only thing we ask people to do is to oil every single time you change the bobbin, that we put 1 drop of oil, and you're going to put that where the number 3 is.
So smart.
And you know, that's just, it's really easy to do, and it really saves your machine. And then every couple of years, 10 or 11 million stitches, you need to take it to your retailer and they will actually crack it open, and there's 6 different there's a little box they have with 6 different kinds of oil and grease, and they will take care of it, and you don't have to mess with anything. There's no oil up top.
Nope.
It's fabulous. So the maintenance on a Handi Quilter is really excellent. The other thing, though, that we sometimes forget, especially we pro stitcher people, we forget to keep our table clean. And you know, threads they just produce all these little threads. Plus, there's a lot of lint. So I keep a microfiber cloth by, and especially when pro stitcher's waking up in the morning, I go and wipe down my table. Smart. And I still sometimes get thread caught in my wheels.
Oh, it just happens because quilt tops are thready and linty.
Yeah.
They just are. It's just a fact.
Number one is pointing to the little black baffle that goes behind the bobbin case. Okay. If you have that, which is in our Amara family,
yes,
you can use canned air or an air compressor to clean out that area.
Right.
But if you have a Moxie or the Infinity, you shouldn't use that. You should use a brush. But number two is pointing to the little light, because those tiny little wires can break. So don't be too crazy in there cleaning it out. And then number three is just where you put the oil. So easy maintenance on our machines.
Keep it clean and oil it every time you change your bobbin. Done.
Yep.
Right?
It's an awesome thing.
Yep.
Now with loading, really, there's a couple of things that people can do to make sure that things are going to go well. And the first is that they should always put a plumb line. And this is when you just have your backing on and your batting, to put a plumb line. This is me actually putting a plumb line on a quilt the other day.
Cool.
And what that does is now you know where straight is compared to your frame.
Right.
And so everything's going to work a lot better. The other trick, and a lot of people skip this one, is that you should always base the sides of your quilt when you advance. Now there's two reasons that's important. First of all, it holds your quilt straight. But second, if you're a Pro Stitcher user and you're doing drag and drop, if you always base the sides of your quilt, you will never tear your quilt, because your needle will not be down in your quilt.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is, you know, when we teach this, we always teach these two things. This is part of what we call best practices. It's just things that you do to ensure the best results.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Now the other thing is that, and I have discovered over the years that we have a dominant hand, and when we are quilters, we want everything to be smooth and lovely. So we advance and we start touch. Well, guess what? If you're right-handed, your right hand is pushing harder, even though you think you're being even. So you have to tame that hand and barely touch with that hand, because what's happening is you're actually pushing your quilt to the right.
Yep.
So a lot of the drift issues we are totally causing ourselves.
Yep. It's very, very, very true. If you wound that quilt top and quilt back and you don't have any waffling on the sides, as it unrolls, it's going to unroll straight.
Right. But we go, let's get that perfect, and we mess it up. So so keep, be gentle with your touching. The other thing is, when we're advancing the quilt, you want to go slowly. Yes, we have a handle and we can go quickly, but you don't want to jerk it, because that's pulling your quilt back and forth. So you just want to advance gently.
Gently.
So,
I like that.
Just some things to think about.
Okay.
And you know what? There's a lot of ways to put a quilt on a frame.
Absolutely.
And I tell my students, at Handi Quilter, we do have what we call the HQ way, and we will teach you, if you come to a class with us, we will teach you how to use pins, because they come with the machine.
Exactly.
And it's tried and true. It's fabulous. Of course, you're going to stick yourself. Okay, that's just
accept it. Keep Band-Aids close by.
But there are other products out there on the market. I have red snappers at home, and I have sew tights. Just know all of these things can work, and sometimes there is a right tool for the job, depending on what you're doing. I still pin sometimes, because that's the right thing. So, but just make sure that whatever you're using, that you're using it correctly.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. If you're not loading things, you're not going to get the results you want. So
right.
Very, very true.
All right, now, the components of tension. Tension is something that we talk about all the time in quilting. And so the first part of tension, so there's kind of 5 parts here. So the first part is the quilt sandwich. And most of us like to have the quilt sandwich much too tight.
Yes, it's very true.
It's like we're in the Marines and we're making a bed and we want to bounce a quarter.
That quarter's got to bounce, right? It's what our mothers taught us when we make those beds with those hospital corners.
So you really should be able to put your finger up, this picture's trying to show you, and pinch the top of your finger just to make sure you have enough give in the quilt top. So, the clamps on the side are really just meant to hold things steady. They're not meant to pull it. Okay, if there's tension on those, you're doing too much.
Yep.
So just know, and if you're seeing vibrations like this, it's too tight. And that is a problem, because it can actually cause thread breakage, and it can cause your quilt to drift a little. So it can be a bugaboo for people. So I actually have to fight that. I put my quilts on, and I make myself test, and usually I'm usually like loosening a click, because I just know that's a struggle for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we like things to be nice and smooth. I totally get it. I'm the same way. Same way. Got to back off.
Okay, now thread is also a part of tension. And I love thread. Most quilters love thread, right? So there are lots of great threads out on the market. I mean, I have threads from lots of different companies, and I've been successful with most of them. and it's just, you know, you have to be a little bit patient with thread. I do have a recommendation. I did something by accident when I was a beginner that actually turned into a great thing, and that's that my local quilt shop sold Superior Threads Omni. And I went and so when I got my long arm, I bought like Omni in 12 different colors, right? Because I like color. And so I used Omni for the first probably 6 or 8 months. I didn't use anything else, but I knew what Omni should feel like pulling through the tension. I was super confident, and now I realize that I think that was a really great thing because I got a baseline on tension, and now I can jump around and it doesn't worry me so much. But I think if you start jumping around a lot right at the beginning, I think you never kind of know what your machine feels like. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip. Work with one thread to build confidence.
Yeah.
Once you get confident with that one thread, then you move on. You add more. I like that. That's a great tip.
So that's just something that worked for me, and so it was by accident learning.
But like a happy accident.
Yeah, but we can use anything on a long arm, like from 12 weight to 100 weight. All those threads are in play. So don't be afraid of thread. Thread is a lot of fun. But you do need to understand the difference between a cross-wound thread that's wound, so they kind of look like this, the one that's on the left, or straight wound thread. And if you're using a straight wound on a long arm, so long arms, you know, we put it on the mast and it goes up. Yeah, we put it on the little.
The cone.
The cone goes on.
The spool pin.
The spool pin. There we go.
There we go. For the cone.
And it goes up through the mast because cross-wound thread is supposed to come up off the spool like that, whereas straight wound, it's supposed to come off the side. So if you're using spools that look like this, you need a horizontal spool pin. That's really important. It's like a $35, $40 piece of equipment that will make a huge difference in your life. So and it's thread net's not a bad thing to have either.
No, thread nets, especially with cones with like a slippery thread, they can be your best friend.
They really can.
Yeah.
All right, and needles. Now I'm going to really strongly recommend that you only use needles that come with a package that looks like this, because we know that there are some unscrupulous people out there who make cheap needles and then they say, oh, these are official Handi Quilter needles, and then they're not, okay? And that's just something you got to watch out for. I know we all like a good deal, but I wouldn't mess around with needles. Okay?
And needles are not expensive.
No, they're not.
But they're like one of the most crucial things. You cannot quilt without a needle.
Right.
You cannot. And so you got to use the needle that's going to work.
Exactly. So just know that people are always like, well, what needles should I be using? Well, that depends on what thread you're using. You have to decide on your thread first. And we have this chart. It's actually in all the machines. It's actually, except for the Moxie, you can find this information, and it will remind you, because you know we can't always remember exactly which needle we should use. But I use a 16 all the time. Once in a while I'll get in trouble and have to jump up to an 18, but 16 and 18, sometimes a 14 if I'm doing monopoly or something like that. But so just know that you do have this thread chart, and that is what determines your needle size. Also, on the needle boxes, it's really important to understand the information that's actually on the little box, because we take our little cute needle boxes out of the package and then we're like, I have no idea what this is. So these little arrows will tell you. First of all, there's a size, and that's the most important thing, and it's up in the upper left hand corner of the box, and that will be your size. It usually says 130/21 or whatever, and that's important. That's your needle size. System is the 134, and my arrow got jiggled a little, it looks like, but 134 is the system that we use in Handi Quilter. So if somebody says, oh, here's some needles. My sister-in-law had an Innova, and she didn't use these needles, so I'm giving them to you. Don't use them, okay? Because those use a 135, and that's not what our system is. They're just different enough that they will cause problems. So make sure you see 134. And then down at the bottom, the R stands for, that means it's a sharp point needle, and that's important. So you'll see that on 2 of these boxes. And then the middle one says FG/SUK. Now, I want to be the graphic designer for this company for a minute, because the first thing I would do is change that. FG actually stands for ballpoint.
Yes. You know what I always tell people, so that I remember, because ballpoint is used for knits. So I say it's for golf shirts.
There you go. Well, I always laugh because the only thing on this box that's in bold lettering is the 10. And all that means is that there are 10 needles in the box.
Exactly.
And I'm like, that's not the most important piece of information. But anyways. Then the other thing you need to be aware of is on the third box, it says MR, and that means that it's a high-speed needle. We do recommend high-speed needles for our Infinity folks, but that you can all use them. They're not going to hurt your machine. You can use a high-speed needle, but just know, so now you know what they mean, even if you don't still have the packaging.
Exactly.
Because I don't keep the packaging myself.
I know.
All right, the other part of thread and everything is bobbins. And I'm also going to recommend that you really stick to Handi Quilter packaged bobbins. A couple of years ago, the market was flooded with a bunch of cheap Chinese bobbins. And, you know, they looked right, but the tolerances on a bobbin are to the thousandths of an inch. And that can really be a problem. So a lot of times you'll be having problems and you don't even realize that it's your bobbin. So just, that's a good thing to check at some point, but use correct bobbins. The other thing is we teach the bobbin tension test. So where you put the bobbin in the case and it should stand up on your hand and the thread should come out smoothly, okay? Not jerky. You shouldn't bounce it.
No.
And if the bobbin just hangs in midair like a spider, then it's too tight.
Right.
And if it just lays there and the thread comes out easily, too loose. So you're going to adjust the big screw that's on the side of the bobbin case. If you take out that little one, you will never find it again.
You'll just buy a new bobbin case at that point. Just buy a new bobbin case.
So only touch the big screw.
Yep.
And here's a couple of bobbin cases. The one on the right actually has a built-in backlash spring that you cannot remove, but the one on the left is what most of us are using these days, and it's kind of got that bluish steel, and that is a backlash spring, and it can pop out. If it pops out, it goes back in. It's kind of like IKEA. It's got little tabs and there's little holes.
I love that.
But you need to remember that it's going to go in so that the curve is going up, because the bobbin should actually bounce just a tiny bit if you touch it. The very first time I quilted, I was so excited. I had that bobbin case in my hand. I'm being so careful. What do? I drop the bobbin case on my concrete floor, and this backlash spring falls out.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I haven't taken a stitch yet. So I tell all my students, I've learned everything by making mistakes.
Oh yeah, no, that's how you learn. I know I've learned the same thing. I always do my bobbin case with my hand like on a table or like on top of the quilt or something like that, because I can't. Someday when I move and we actually clean out my quilting room, there's going to be like 47 bobbin springs
all over,
stuck under baseboards in my house, right? Probably you too, right?
Someday somebody will be like, "What is this thing? What is this thing?"
There's so many of them. Where'd they all come from?
So until you get your bottom and your bobbin set, once you get that tension set, then you can worry about your top tension. I mean, there's a reason this is last on the list, and that's because yes, it's important, but it's not the only thing in tension. There's all those decisions that go before. And so if it's really tight looking on top, like these stitches look pretty flat on top. And then you can see how on the bottom, I put a different color bobbin in so you could kind of see that. It's actually, this is what we call eyelashing. And so it's pulling the bottom bobbin thread up onto the top. that tells you that your top tension is too tight, okay? It's out of balance, and you need to loosen that up. Now, if the eyelashes are on the bottom, then that means that the bottom is pulling the top down. Now, we're not going to mess with the bottom tension. We're going to fix the top. So at that point, we would tighten up the top so that it will pull those eyelashes back up. So that's just something to be aware of. Eyelashes, that you're pretty far off if you're getting eyelashes most of the time.
Yeah.
Now see how wobbly these stitches look? And then sometimes they disappear. Now this is, if you ever see this on top, I can guarantee you that the bottom looks worse.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
And
yeah,
see all
it's a
that
hot mess
looping?
like that.
Yeah,
it's like somebody just played with thread. They weren't actually stitching.
Exactly. And usually what that means is that the thread has actually popped out of the tension discs. And that can happen really easily, especially with those slippery threads. You know, if we're using Fantastica or Glide, any of those trilobal polyester threads, they're just slippery. They pop out. It's not anything you've done. Nope. It's not wrong. It's just life. I did want to talk for a second. If you start having skipped stitches or missed stitches, and let's talk about the difference. So if you're sewing along and it's going, you know, it's chugging along, and then you start going in one direction and it's going chug, 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 it kind of slows down and you're getting long stitches, I promise you that is an encoder issue.
Yep.
Okay, so the first thing you want to do is go to the back of your machine and find the there's two little cords that attach the little black wheels that run on the tracks, and either a wheel's not touching the track all the way, or the cord has come unplugged a little bit. Okay, so those are definitely encoder issues, and you will see they will look like long stitches with no holes underneath them.
Right.
Now, if you are getting holes, but the stitches are not catching, that's a much harder problem.
That's a different issue. That's a timing issue.
So usually it is a timing issue. And sometimes if you turn your needle just a tiny bit and it starts catching, that is proof that it's a timing issue. So don't leave if that works, that's a great emergency stopgap to get through the quilt you're on. But then you need to be on the phone with your tech saying, I need a timing appointment. So
my machine needs a spa day.
They do need a spa day. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about Pro Stitcher. Okay, now Pro Stitcher is a computer. And a lot of us get very stressed about computers. And sometimes we don't think so clearly when we get stressed. So it's important that you take a break. This is a mug that my daughter-in-law, she's got awesome taste in coffee cups. I have them all over my house holding different things.
So appropriate.
Okay, but if you get stressed, please stop quilting and go take a break. Quilting is supposed to be fun. If you're really getting that frustrated, you're not thinking clearly and it's time to take a break. Because a lot of times you'll come back in 10 minutes and it's like, oh. That was silly. So. All right, first thing about Pro Stitcher is when you are new, you forget the order of where the things are. And I am such a geek, but I always make my students do a little cheer with me that we do tab, ribbon, sidebar, okay? But that is where the information is. And if you can kind of think about what you want to do and you go to the tab, then you're going to drop down to the ribbon, and then the fine tuning is over in the sidebar. And if you know, that causes so many problems for our beginners. But here are some real life things coming. So I don't even want to know what the statistics are, but I know they're high of how many calls Handi Quilter gets a week of, I am dinging my area and I can't see anything. It's not showing. Anytime you're like, I can't see something, the word see should trip something in your brain that says, I need to go check my view. Okay, so that is often just somehow you've managed to turn something off. So if you're not seeing start and end points, or if you're only seeing start and end points, designs.
Yeah, because you don't see your design, but you know the design's open,
Right.
floating, start and end point. It's a clue.
Right. So if it's a C issue, then go look at your view tab.
Smart.
Okay,
Very
because
smart.
that's usually where the problem is.
Yep.
Settings is another place where sometimes people go in they just want to go see what's happening, and they accidentally click something. And I don't even tell beginners about the settings because you can get into some trouble. So if you're a beginner, don't change anything in there. It's okay how it comes from the factory. Just leave it alone. Down the road, there are going to be times when you need to turn off your auto jump. And that's where you're going to go, is to your settings. But I think that as a beginner, just leave it alone.
Yeah. Don't touch.
I don't
That's a
even teach them.
do not touch button at that point, right?
Now, if you have a problem and you're calling and you need to you need to know your stitch count or something like that, you can go to this information button and it will tell you what version you're running. So this is an older picture, but you can find that information in the little eye up the top there. So just so people know that that's there. Here we are, tab, ribbon, sidebar, and sidebar tab. So there are actually, sometimes you may have clicked on something and you can't see the information that you think you ought to be seeing, and it's just because you're in the wrong tab at the top of your sidebar. Yeah. So before you call, check those, all right? So this screen is this is something that happens to people. Now, it usually happens when you're actually working in simulation on a laptop, if you download Pro Stitcher so you can work on your laptop, but it can happen on your actual tablet. So if you open a square and then it's clearly not a square. Now, I over-exaggerated this one a little bit so you could really see it. Sometimes it's just subtly off. But what's happening is that it's set up for your tablet. My laptop's a different configuration. So every time I get a new laptop, I have to do this. I have to go into Settings and then go to Display, and then actually set the width and the height. So I measure it with a tape measure, because we all have those, right? So it's 8 by 12 or whatever, and I put those numbers in, and poof, it's magically fixed. All right, so.
Exactly. One thing to keep in mind, if you think that yours is off by just a little bit, a really easy way to check this is to go turn on the graph. Because you can tell with the squares, if they look like rectangles in either direction, you know it's off. Another thing to keep in mind, I have to reset this on my laptop constantly.
Oh, really?
Because I will work on my laptop and then I will plug in and use my monitors. And when I put it on my big monitor, it's a different aspect. So just know that this is something, if you do plug your laptop into additional monitors, this is something you might change a lot in simulation.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just something to note. People get really panicky when they open a square and it now looks like a rectangle.
A circle and it looks like an egg.
Yes.
You're like, but the design's called circle. Why is it not a circle?
Exactly. Yes. And it's nothing, it's just a little, that's a computer glitch. Yep. It's not really anything wrong.
No.
Now we can also decide how many stitches are in this design. And so we can go to this tab that's Stitch Stats, and it will not work while you're actually stitching. You have to do it before or after, but it will tell you. So I've had quilts that were 270,000 stitches. Well, for me, that raises a red flag, because I know that needles are, they recommend maybe 80,000 stitches on a needle. Okay, well, I will probably overdo that. But at the same time, if I put in a new needle at the beginning of that project, and 2/3 of the way through, I'm starting to have some thread breaks.
Yeah.
The red flag's already in my brain that probably I might need another needle. So that gives me one of my troubleshooting, techniques, is to just know how many stitches there are.
That's
now,
smart.
there are some among us, I won't mention any names, but it might be Megan Best, who, judging on the stitch count and the thread, could tell you exactly how many bobbins you're going to need. But I am not that mathematically inclined.
Me either. The part that I love the best about this is it tells you how long the estimated stitch time is. So I can look at it and go, okay, am I going to be able to finish this quilt before lunch, or is this going to take me 3 days?
Yeah, exactly. And that's important because we all have life that happens.
Exactly.
Okay, so now these are some actual issues that I've seen. Some of these I've had to recreate, but you are going to see some pictures here that I have lifted off Pro Stitcher Posse or Beginning Pro Stitcher online of actual pictures that people send in and say, what do I do? So this one's a recreation, but why? So people are wondering, why won't it stitch? Now this is more of a newbie era, but the problem here is that they don't have the quilt button
selected.
Okay, now a few years ago this was a new feature and everybody lost their minds for about a month because they had to push this extra button. But now I think most of us have it, and so that's something we look for.
Yep.
But now this one, I may have to put on my glasses, but I think I remember what this is. This one also it won't stitch again. How come this one won't stitch?
Okay, I'm looking at the screen trying
I know
to see
it's tiny for us, but what's happened is over in the sidebar, the hint is in the sidebar, and that's that we've actually turned off our stitch. Okay, so it's in air stitching mode at this time, and so it can't stitch.
It will run, it just won't stitch.
Right,
because we have told it, don't stitch.
All right, and so sometimes we turn that off to do certain techniques, and we just forget to turn it back on.
Yep.
All right, now, sometimes we get these kind of questions. This edge-to-edge design just doesn't look good. And this is one of our designs that's actually in Pro Stitcher. And a lot of times, beginners just think that they're going to open up their designs and they're going to magically look beautiful. Well, sometimes that works, and sometimes you have to do some things. And in this situation, you actually have to change the gap. So by changing the gap, we're changing the vertical space between the rows.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this design, I think see how much better that looks?
Yeah, you gotta.
So if you just change the gap, now it's like, oh, that's a cute design now. Before it was just kind of like, what is that?
Those are really big spaces.
Now, this is where people panic. Everything stopped. What do I do now? And this is an actual picture that was sent in. And because they sent a picture of their whole screen, we knew what the answer was. And the answer is up in the upper right-hand corner where there is a big lightning bolt on the motor button.
Yeah, they had a motor error. They lost connection between their motors and their Pro Stitcher tablet.
And that can happen.
Yep, it can.
So often you can just fix that. I tell people, go ahead, touch the lightning. It'll be okay. Zap. And they're all like, I don't know. But most of the time you can just touch that lightning bolt and it will actually reconnect everything. But now your crosshairs have moved and you're going to have to reposition after that. So there is a tiny bummer in that one, but you're going to get really good at repositioning.
And that is a very important skill.
It is.
To learn.
Absolutely.
Once you've conquered repositioning, you are the master of the Pro Stitcher universe.
Absolutely.
You can do anything once you can reposition.
That is the truth. Okay, now this is a little more interesting problem. So my rows are overlapping. What is going on? So I think that now this can be different things depending on the age of your machine and everything. If you've got a much older machine, that means those leaders have been being used for a long time. And sometimes your leaders will actually stretch out. So I recommend to people, go ahead and actually measure them. And they're like, well, they're all within 1/8 of an inch. I'm like, no. You want this to be pretty perfect. They also need to be placed on your Velcro, on your pole, perfectly, because 1/8 of an inch, as you roll that just compounds and things get wonky. The other thing, we talked about this already, this is probably somebody going, I'm going to smooth this bad boy out. And
with my strong right hand.
Yes. Ooh, and so now when they get to the right side, they have actually shifted the quilt enough that now the design is overstitching. So be aware of that. What are some other ideas that you would check for when they're overstitching?
On this one, if this is something that you're constantly seeing and you've already checked the two things that you've talked about, you probably need to call Technical Solutions. It might be time to have your Pro Stitcher carriage taken in and serviced. You might have some gears that are getting a little loose, especially like you're saying if you have an older machine.
Yeah.
It could be something like that. But more than likely, the two things you've mentioned are going to fix the problem.
Yep, often they do.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to crop the end of this edge to edge, but it isn't working. Okay, so what this person has done, they've done everything right except for one part. And what they did was they told it to crop the outside when really what they meant was to crop what was on the inside.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Easy to fix.
when you get down to the bottom, what I teach my students is to make another area and that encompasses all the stitching you don't want, and then to delete it by cropping what's in the box. So this person, they still get an A because you know they're so close.
They were just one button off, just one button off, and luckily all you have to do is hit cancel here, go back to modify, and one button,
super
done.
easy to fix.
Yeah.
How come I can't use triangle skew? So triangle skew is a newer feature. This might be a little bit older picture, maybe a year and a half ago. And you can see that triangle skew is actually grayed out. Now that is a feature that's on Pro Stitcher, not on Pro Stitcher Lite. If you go ding, 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 ding.
One too many.
Okay,
one
Pro
too
Stitcher's
many.
like, okay, whoa, you just put in 4 points. And I know that that is a quadrilateral. Okay?
Not a triangle.
That's right, Pro Stitcher's like, we're not going there. And so it just is like, I'm just gonna gray out the triangle skew because she obviously doesn't know what she's doing.
She didn't take geometry in high school.
So a triangle only has 3 points. So ding, ding, ding. Remember, areas reconnect themselves. So you don't have to put in that, you don't have to go back to the beginning, and that's the trick. Now honestly, if you've done this, here's the answer. You go back to your area tab, say clear, and just do it again. It will take you 7 extra seconds, and it's easy to fix, okay? Okay, why is my thread break alarm going off all the time? That is so annoying, okay? So usually what that means is that your little check spring, that little spring that's right by your tension knob, the little tiny circle is actually a magnet, and that check spring and that magnet talk to each other. And usually what's happening is your check spring might be a little bent or something, or it might not be moving all the way, and so it's telling your machine that you have a thread break even when you don't.
Every once in a while, this might actually be a tension issue. If you don't have enough tension on the thread, the check spring won't move, and so it won't read that it's creating stitches. Sometimes that check spring, if it's bent, you can just bend it back a little bit. It should almost be brushing right against it. The other thing is you can have the check spring replaced.
When everything is just messed up and I cannot get it to work, I unthread the whole machine and rethread it, because even though it looks right, there might be a little piece of lint somewhere that is causing issues. So even with this issue, I would probably, before I panicked, I would go ahead and rethread.
That's smart. That's very, very smart.
So,
yep.
Or just turn the whole thing off sometimes.
Yeah, and
Reboot.
you can. You do not have to use the thread break sensor.
Right.
You do not, let me just stress that. You don't have to use it. I like to use it with my Pro Stitcher because it means that I can, you know, it'll stop when it runs out of bobbin or something.
So that's the issue. If you turn it off, your machine's just going to keep running without thread, and you're going to have all your little pokey holes, and you're going to be like, oh, that was lovely.
Well, the design was in the right place. Let's try that again with thread.
All right, so here's something that people like to do. So they want to go around an applique, like Sunbonnet Sue or something, but they don't want to have a whole bunch of overstitching.
Right.
Now, I just need to make sure you understand that when you crop something, so if you're cropping an edge to edge around Sunbonnet Sue or something, you are giving Pro Stitcher permission to use that pink line to do whatever it needs to do to get to the next place. So, so you might get 5 levels of overstitching right here, and there might not be any overstitching here.
Right.
And we will look at that and be like, what is ProStitcher doing? Why didn't it just go here? It's right next door. But that is it. ProStitcher is a computer, and it works on numbers. And so it is going to go to the next number in the sequence, even if that's over here and there's a stitch that's, you know, a place that's closer. So it doesn't always make sense to us, but mathematically, ProStitcher is always correct. And so if you don't want to give it permission, don't close your edges.
Right.
All right. So that's one thing, is don't close your edges. Then what you need to do is it's going to just start jumping all over the place, because our default setting is that it's allowed to jump 6 inches.
Right.
If you don't want it to be able to do that, you need to go to settings, and you're going to go to your auto jump. And I always turn mine down to 0. And that's when it gets to the end where it's now been cropped off, it'll just stop. I can actually go ahead and I can tie off however I want to do. If you want to tie off and bury your threads, I'm way too lazy for that. I'm like, star button and trim it off, okay? But that way you don't have to worry about the overstitching issue.
Yep.
So that's where you'd find, so that's kind of a 2-part answer, because you have to not close the edges, but then you have to go change auto jump.
Exactly. Unless you want to be clipping a lot of
all the threads.
Jumpy threads.
And you don't get to just clip on the top, you have to clip on the bottom too, because the bobbin thread doesn't automatically come up. So it can be a little bit of a mess.
Yep.
All right, so this is somebody who's been building an edge to edge, and I have starts and stops between my designs. What happened? Now, many moons ago, we actually had to push a button called P2P to make our designs connect, and we are so lucky. So if you are running an old system, that might be your issue, is that you need to push the P2P button. Now, these days, our wonderful engineers have made that all happen for us. But when you were building your design, it's entirely possible that you may have accidentally clicked the horizontal gap button. And if you only change it by 1/100th of an inch, you have probably separated those designs and they're not connecting anymore.
Yep.
Okay? So what you need to, honestly, you usually cannot undo this. Honestly, you probably just need to go close the selected, which will close, you'll keep your area, but lose the design and just rebuild it.
Yeah.
That's easier than any of the other.
Trying to undo and figure out
and
where
undo doesn't always.
Well, and trying to figure out where you made the mistake, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
So sometimes starting over is much easier.
Absolutely.
Okay, now this was a fun one. I have 2 areas. How do I fix this? Now, you can see the little pink dots down at the bottom of this picture. This is a fairly recent one from this summer. But now we have this line that appears to have cropped this design. So, first of all, the hint here is that line has a start and end. So, I mean, it doesn't really look like an area. So this is actually, we have something turned on that we're seeing that we don't often see. And we're seeing our
rubber band.
Yes, of this weird area. So you cannot have 2 areas open at the same time. So just know that. And this person probably knew that, which is why they were going, something is really wrong here. So.
Yeah.
But also, this picture didn't show the whole screen. It was just this area. So if you're having a problem, make sure you take a picture that shows the whole screen, the whole sidebar, everything. We want to see it.
Yeah.
And then I want you to send them to me. Okay? So I continuously improve this presentation by taking people's pictures and putting them in. So if you will send them to me, that would be awesome. And because it's fun for us. And it's always like a quiz for us when this stuff happens. We're like, what is happening there?
I know. You're like, wait, let me check. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. I know. I always feel like I'm a super detective when people send me pictures of things like this, and it's like, that's what it is. And like you said, if you don't send the whole screen, it's really hard to diagnose, because sometimes it's a button you did select or you didn't select it. Something just as simple as that. So,
well, and really, guys, if you're having a problem, your first line of people to call your retailer. Those people are professionals, okay? They come consistently come to trainings here at Handi Quilter to learn to improve their craft, someone in the store can probably answer your question. And then, you know, if they tell you, you know, you should probably call Tech Solutions or you should call the hotline, then go ahead and do that. But give your retailer the chance to help you.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kaye. This was so much fun to go through with you. I was like, okay, we're going to test my knowledge and see. And you definitely had some great things there that I'm like, I should start.
Well, and these are the real life things that happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, hopefully if you know, if it just helps people, and really, guys, just remember, don't get panicked. I consider my job when I am quilting is to boss Pro Stitcher around.
Oh, I like
you know,
that.
because it's a computer, and any computer, they like to be bossed around.
They do. They do. They like to be told what to do. They like to have all their buttons pushed. Just remember that. In the right order, though.
That's right.
Tab, ribbon,
now,
sidebar.
That made me think of one thing that I didn't include, and that is baseline.
Oh.
And baseline is really misunderstood.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So let's just talk about that for just a second. Baseline is not save. What baseline does is it's kind of a grouping command, and I explained it this way. So I had one son that when he got his driver's license, all he wanted to do was drive. I mean, he wanted to run every errand for me.
Cool.
So if I gave him 5 pieces of paper, each with an errand on it, and I said, okay, I need you to go run these in order, and he's going to take those, he's going to go out to his truck and throw them on the front seat and roll back in the day, roll the windows down.
Yeah, yeah.
And what are the chances of him getting those done in order? Nil, okay? But if I had given him one list, numbered, then he would have been successful. And that's kind of how Pro Stitcher is. Sometimes when we're adjusting a design, we're like, rotate, rotate, oh, resize, rotate, resize, skew. We do a lot of things. And when we push that baseline button, what it does is it cleans up all that mess, and it just says, Pro Stitcher, make it this size. Pro Stitcher, rotate it this much. It doesn't have to think through everything that we did. And so it makes it much cleaner, stitch out. So just make sure you hit baseline. It's just an easy thing to make your stitching more pleasant.
Exactly, exactly. As we like to say, but first, baseline.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kaye.